guys. Welcome. Welcome. I am going to start off by saying hello to everybody in the chat. Hello, Hee Hee. Glad to see you here again. Hi, Beverly, Becky. Hi, Tad, Beverly. Who else? Leonard Smith, hello. Deborah Sellers, hello. And John C. Mitchell Jr. Awesome, guys. Hello. Hi, Lily. Thank you for that link that you sent me. I believe it was you because I don't have your number saved, but you sent me that Rumble video. And I'm so glad that you did because I started watching it and I didn't finish it, but I got a good 20 minutes into it and I was like, whoa, this is something that I've never seen before. And if anybody is wondering what that is, I put a link on the Discord in preparation for this video. If you would like to watch that video, go right ahead and do that. So if you are not a part of our family on Discord, please check us out on Discord and join us, because that's where I really get to connect with you guys a little bit more, on a personal level. And we send links like this and share things like this. So I shared it for everybody. And so that's when I started watching a little bit about it. So thank you so much, Empath, for sending that to me. Hi, Jimmy. Getting set up to come on. Yes. I love you, Jimmy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Because I am going to really go deep into 9/11. I mean, if you haven't been a long-time subscriber, you probably don't know that I have given the story before of that I was there. I was 5 years old and I will never forget that day. So we're going to dive into that. It really hits home for me. It's a little traumatic. But 20 something years later, now that I'm an adult, I finally got to do a little bit of research into what happened on that day. And I am going to entertain every single theory that is out there. If you have one, click that link at the top of my chat and join us on StreamYard. I want to hear your thoughts on what do you think happened on that day. That's why I wrote on the title of the live, and I said, never forget. I agree with that phrase when it comes to 9/11. Never forget what really happened on 9/11. So I can't wait till Jimmy comes on. Hello, Shaq. Yeah. Thank you, Empath. Yes, Jimmy. Hello to everybody. Oh, nice. Lily is on here. Hello.
Hello, darling. How are you?
Doing good. I'm so glad you were able to jump on with me today. Because I was really, really interested in what you guys think about it. Because you guys are older than me. You were
A
still
little bit.
yeah. I mean, like, you guys were the young adults of that time, and so you were,
I
like,
was
you
40, I
probably.
was 40 and a half, almost 41.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't. I don't know how that would feel like if I was an adult during that time. Like, I don't know what I would have done. I probably would freak out like the way I did with the assassination attempt with Trump. I was just freaking out because I've never seen something like that before. Before we start, I just want to let everybody know I look super shiny right now because I have eczema and I have to really moisturize my skin. So I'm not sweating. This is just a lot of moisturizer. Okay, so I have a couple of clips that I want to share with you, Lily, and then I want to get your your opinion about it. And
Okay.
I think that let me see. Brand. Okay. I'm gonna show our names. Okay, there we go. Oh, Jimmy. Hi,
Hey, Jimmy.
Good evening, everybody. Long time no see.
Jimmy. No, man. I have been waiting for September 11th to do this. Because I have changed my perspective on what really happened on that day a lot of times, and I don't want to seem too crazy, but I'm gonna get crazy.
Good.
Uh,
That's always fun.
Ruby, you must have been hitting the red pills.
oh yeah, oh yeah, because I can even go as far as to say maybe that wasn't even a plane, and I know that
There you go.
Yep.
um okay, so I got that out there. Woo, I got that off my chest. So I am going to play a clip that I have showed Jimmy in the past, and I want to show it to you, Lily. It's an edit on Twitter that somebody has made, and it's really, really dope. So I'm going to play it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the edit was really quick. I'll play it one more time just so that you can see a lot of the images, the symbolism, and when it connects to 9/11 and the dancing Israelis. Okay, Lily, so give me your first impression of that.
Well, it shows us endless amounts of people there involved, the organizations they're with, and the first thing I thought of, which was a little bit unrelated, but I just saw something last night on this show that I watch. I mentioned it before, called That's Impossible, and he posts a lot of stuff, and he showed like how that clip there just showed a lot about the money. And he has a clip. He said he says, I can't verify it. When I get a chance, I'll send it to Jimmy, and he's the in-depth guy, and you can look at it. But they were showing all under a microscope in the money, and he was showing the euro and the American dollar, just so many more things than we have any concept of what they have hidden in the dollar. And there was actually supposedly, because, like I say, he said, I can't verify this because I don't have a microscope to check it out. He said, I'll try and work on that. Endless amounts of alien spaceships and alien figures. And I mean, just have you heard about that, Jimmy?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay. So it's like, it kind of touches back for me the concept of all these organizations and what it all goes back to, of what they know that they're doing their best to keep from the general public. And regarding the 9/11 stuff, I mean, I've seen so many charts of the players involved. And there's one that I sent a video, and I'm sorry, I had been trying to find this video, and I found it late in the day. And it's an old version, like 2003, I think. The person, they had this evidence, and they laid out the players. And I know it's modern as well, where all the different organizations run by the movers and shakers of the world, including Dick Cheney and the Bush family and all the different military empires, and how it was all connected to oil, and they knew they wanted to keep it all going. It's like, it's just, once you start looking, it's endless, the amount of proof there is. And whenever, what did you think, Ruby, of the concept of the energy the the pulverization of the energy machine. What did you think of that?
Yep. Okay, so I only watched like the first 20 minutes of the
Okay.
video, and it
So,
also well, actually, now that I remember, I actually saw a website that had those exact same pictures of the cars completely demolished, and then like half of the car was good, half of the car wasn't.
right.
How does that happen?
Like like a normal energy weapon that you don't, they're not hiding. You go to these websites, these military websites, and they show you exactly what it looks like. Well,
Mhm.
in that second video I sent late this afternoon, it said there was a guy, I think in the year 2000 or 2001, he was high up in the military, high up in some sort of government organization, and he was trying to describe. Now, remember, this is what, how many years later? 24 years later.
Yeah. Yep. 23
So,
years later. Yep.
so he was trying to describe a early version of the energy weapon machines that we have now.
Right.
And he was trying to understand like how to describe what it did, and the process, how it was turning things into dust.
Dustified. Yes, that term, when they were going through the line of it, I was like, oh my goodness, because that's
Yeah,
exactly what seeing with our own two eyes. And I never
right.
even thought about it, that it was just, it wasn't vaporized, it
No.
wasn't pulverized, or like all these other words trying to describe what happened. It was literally dustified. It was gone.
And Jeff, he went to go and do his stray cat run where he feeds these different stray cats. He'll be back in a little bit. And I asked him, because he was there on the third day at 9/11. And he said that, that some of the firemen had to take a break and walk away a little bit. And when he was in the bucket brigade, they called it, where they had the buckets and they're putting stuff in the buckets and they're passing. He's trying to tell his fellow buddy who was, he said he's stupid is what he said. Basically, he couldn't entertain the concept of anything other than what it was. And he said, why are we doing this? This is like, there are no bodies. This is just ash. This is not normal. And he was trying to like talk to people, and there were other ones, and they eventually shut everybody up. And they were also intensely in shock. And so he said at one point they walked down the street, and because I saw somebody trying to debunk that first video I sent on the weekend a long time ago. They tried to debunk that and say that, oh, that didn't happen. Well, Jeff was there. And he said that the streets were full of this ash, this debris that has nothing to do with a burning building, has nothing to do with that. And then the way the cars were. And then he said they went in, I think he said about 6 blocks away, they went in to a bar, like a little, just an old time bar like you'd see in New York. And he said the dust was just endless. And he's like trying to say, how can all this dust be? And then when they all actually saw Building 7, not next to the other ones, nothing hitting it, and it going down.
We're gonna get into that. I have a clip that I'm gonna bring, and I'm gonna get into that. But really quickly, I want to get to Jimmy. Jimmy, let's get your initial thoughts before we move forward.
It was all bullshit.
Yeah, but that's not good enough for me, Jimmy. I'm sorry, it's just not good enough. So
I know.
Give me another thought, Jimmy. What's your second thought?
So I think what a lot of people fail to dig on is we've all seen the event. We've seen the event. We've seen all the videos about it and everything. But I don't think a lot of people think about what led up to it. What were some theories on why it happened? Why were there a lot of movies, TV shows that put little 9/11 nuggets in them? I don't know if you've ever seen there's a YouTube video, 9/11 comms in Back to the Future, and they go through all these different things that shows something going on in 9/11. What we have to remember, though, is these people, they always tell you what they're going to do. And so if you go back and look at some of those videos and everything, you can see that this was planned. They had it in movies, they had it in TV shows, but all through the 90s. But no one was paying attention. And of course, that's what they count on, is no one paying attention. So they'll end up getting away with what they have on their plan to do if they need to do it. There's another theory, but I don't want to get into that at the moment, on some of the things that I've heard on why it took place. But we'll just go from here, and just whatever clips you got, I'll speak as we go.
Okay, good, because the very first theory is the dancing Israelis, which was in the edit as well. I didn't know about this until very recently. And a lot of people are saying that Israel was involved in it and not who we thought was involved in it. So do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. Dancing Israelis, what are they connected to? The Mossad. What is the Mossad connected to? The CIA. They're basically the same organization with different names. But yeah, so that's why I think you saw dancing Israelis, because they were not the Israelis that a lot of people view as God's chosen people. They are the Khazarian Israelis, the fake Israelis. They're the ones that have been controlling the state of Israel for all this time. They wanted this to happen. Now, why would they want this to happen? It would spark off and kick off a war in the Middle East. And that's exactly what it did.
Right.
Who does that benefit? It benefits the Mossad. It benefits the CIA, and it benefits the military industrial complex. So all of this, I do believe, goes back to the origins of CIA operation, Mossad operations. It was a deep state operation.
Okay, go ahead, Lily. What are your thoughts about the dancing Israeli theory?
Well, I agree with Jimmy about the roots of where it goes back to. And there's been countless videos. It's like, I want to say, anytime somebody says, where is the proof? It's like, I almost want to laugh, because, you know, I'm no fancy researcher or anything. And if I can find these endless amounts of things, and you can kind of tell the difference between somebody who's just trying to get clickbait and whenever there's actual records and documentation that's being shown. Whenever there's somebody's willing to look at the proof, it's more like that. And so whenever I look forward to whenever Jimmy brings up the why, because I just like stopped what I was saying, because I didn't want to get into that, because we'll wait till that a little bit later. But the connection of the people that were utilized, whatever you want to call them, the planned people that were going to execute whatever they needed to execute, they were trained right there, supposedly outside of Tampa. And Jeff and I happened to have met a couple of people in a bizarre way, that they were supposedly people in the know from Germany, that they knew a lot about the people that were trained in Tampa, whether or not, that's true or not, whether or not it was actually a plane, whether or not it was a plane and a missile, or whether or not it was CGI. There's like a whole bunch of possibilities, but none of those are working as distraction anymore, because we know it wasn't a bunch of guys with some box cutters that took over some airplanes. We know that.
And they always demean the people, the conspiracy theorists. But you know what? You could solve that problem by just telling the effing truth.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have to
Exactly.
be we wouldn't have to be conspiracy theorists, so to speak, conspiracy realists.
Really.
Do you want to go? You said you were going to wait till we got into the why. Do we want to just go ahead and mention that before we go further on
Um,
the why we think it happened?
Well, whenever Jeff gets back, and he went a little bit early, he knows a lot about Building 7, and I'm sure you do too. But it's like that was
Mhm.
really interesting about Building 7, what they housed there.
Oh yeah.
And
Okay,
so,
'cause I do have a clip about that as well. So I'll do these first two clips so that everybody knows what we're talking about,
okay.
because I still have yet to dive into these until this type of theory.
In the days after the September attacks, there were
Oh wow, the video's not even playing.
They're gonna shut everything down tonight.
Stop it. Oh my. Okay, let me try another tab and see if that works.
We're going to have talking code, Jimmy.
I know. I was gonna say, that dang Jimmy Bell's on Ruby show again.
Oh my goodness, hold on 1 second. Don't do this to me, guys. Whoever my FBI agent is right now that's watching, stop, please. Please stop. Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to try this clip instead. Okay.
It began when this woman was watching the Twin Towers burning from her apartment in New Jersey. She noticed 3 men on top of a van, posing for pictures with the towers burning in the background.
And I
Wow.
could see that they were like happy. They didn't look shocked to me. They didn't look shocked. I thought it was very strange.
The witness called police, who stopped the van hours later and arrested 5 men. All 5, it turns out, were Israeli. They were turned over to the FBI. Sources tell ABC News during a check of national security databases, some of the men were listed as having had connections with Israeli intelligence. At the FBI, that set off alarm bells. The FBI needed the answers to 3 important questions. Who were these men? What brought them to that parking lot on the morning of September 11th? And did they have any advanced knowledge of what was going to happen that day? They said they worked for a company called Urban Moving. The FBI obtained a search warrant for the company's offices.
2 SUVs were filled up with between 9 and 12 boxes and computers.
Not long after the arrests, the offices of Urban Moving were simply abandoned. Almost everything was left behind. In jail, the 5 Israelis were repeatedly interrogated and given lie detector tests. Stephen Gordon was their American lawyer.
They were asked questions if they had ever been approached by or hired by any non-United States intelligence community.
While there is still some debate among American intelligence officials, many investigators believe some of the men were part of an Israeli operation aimed at monitoring radical Islamic charities that support groups like Hamas, something lawyers for the 5 men and the Israeli government strongly deny.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad. The fact of the matter is, we are coming from a country that experiences terror daily. Our purpose was to document the event. How
the fuck did you know it was going to be an event?
Right? Okay, and that's the first time that I've seen that. So in 2002, I was 6 years old. So I'm brand new to this, guys. Like, I'm watching it with you guys. I'm going back in time with you guys right now. So you guys were adults at that time. You've seen this. You know that this happened. And now that we're awake, that's what kind of gets me. I'm going to see if this clip works one last time.
in the days after the September attacks.
Wow. Okay. So
Wow.
it must be the tweet. That
Do
is
you have-
crazy.
Do you have your phone available? Can you play it on your phone and just put your phone up to the camera?
No, I don't have a smartphone. I have
Oh,
a
that's
flip
right.
phone. Yeah, I downgraded a while ago. Okay, but you know what? If anybody wants that video, go to my Twitter and I've reposted it for that reason so that I can have it on my timeline. And that's where
Le-
I'm getting it from.
Lily, do you have your phone with you?
I do.
George with
Do you have?
Trump.
Do you have? Do you have?
W.
Can you go on
Oh,
her
George.
Twitter and see it, or do you have Twitter?
No, I don't have it. Maybe George has it.
George.
Okay, that's okay. I will. Everybody go to Twitter if you want to see that video. So hi, Jesse. Any thoughts you want to share before we get into
No,
it?
I love all your points. I just wanted to share. I was a Jehovah's Witness elder for 14 years and ministerial servant for 7. But I was a closet Republican. You know how they say gay people are in the closet? I really did live in the closet. So I saluted the flag when I was a little kid. Sometimes when people weren't looking, I always loved America. But I always loved God, Jesus. I always believed in Jesus. My name is Jesus. Today it's George W. Trump. But let me tell you something on 911. I really believed in George W. Bush, and I had a secret life, like a gay person lives a second life. I was a Republican in circles, so I campaigned with Republicans even when I was a Jehovah's Witness. I sponsored the Rush Limbaugh show on my radio for my business.
Oh, boy.
But I was never disfellowshipped, and nobody ever questioned me because everybody was pretty conservative. Now they're ultra liberal, the Jehovah's Witness, their New World Order. But back then, all of us Republicans really believed in George W. Bush. We believed he was the second coming of Ronald Reagan, and that's why he won in 2004. So it was very hard. And in November, if you could go back to November of 2001, where you did that video, the World Series was on. So we were distracted. There was a lot of distraction. And we believed when people were talking, like Alex Jones was talking about the 7th building or Building 7, we didn't believe it because it's hard. You have to see that if Americans were involved, it would be akin to Judas Iscariot. It would be akin to Benedict Arnold. The things that we're talking about are so great that our own brothers would bring down the death of 3,000 of our own brothers. It's hard to believe.
Exactly.
So now we have the hindsight. Hindsight is 2020. But in 2001, if you believe that it was an inside job, you would have to be admitting something that would be life-altering to you. You would have to admit that some of us are going against our own country. Because back then we thought as Republicans and Democrats, left and right, we never thought about the globalist agenda. It was something like, for instance, the greatest patriot of the 20th and 21st century in my book was Rush Limbaugh. And he was like Enoch. He did not, and Moses, he was not allowed to see the great fight between the globalists and the nationalists. He always thought the fight was between left and right. He really did. In all his, and right when the globalist nationalist agenda came into the New World Order, he died of lung cancer. He was taken from the debate. So this is a relatively new to a lot of us. It's relatively new, the globalist agenda, Hamas, the Israelis coming into it. But now we're seeing they were involved way back before at the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Exactly.
But a lot of us were asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, what's funny too is George Bush, the first one, senior, he gave his famous New World Order speech on September 11th of 1991, 10 years prior to this happening.
Really?
Exactly.
Yeah. So these guys, these globalists, they knew they know what they're doing. They know they may not have known exactly what they were going to do. They still were planning it or whatever, but they have an agenda. They know what their agenda is, and it was to move slowly so as to basically, what is the expression, the frog in the water, the boiling water technique?
You boil it slowly.
Yeah, that's what these people have been doing to the American public.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it's true, because the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Look, in 1973, 1972, I believe Richard Nixon did the EPA, for example. Now, Richard Nixon is a conservative Republican in that year. Why would he be advancing big government? Why? So a lot of us that were pro-Nixon in 72, we go along with it because we say, Well, Nixon will never stab us in the back.
Mhm.
That's something that Johnson or Kennedy would do, but not Nixon. So a lot of the problems of the globalist agenda comes from our own side, from within, like what Jimmy is
Right.
talking about, George W. Mhm.
You know, one thing that I remember on that day, or maybe the day or two after, I can't remember when George Bush Jr. made the speech, but when you're during that time, there's usually something that sticks out in your mind that you don't really think about it, but it was there. And then as you wake up to all this crap going on, you remember something that you remembered back then. You're like, holy crap, that makes sense now. So my example to that is when W gave a speech, and in his speech he said, let's continue to go shopping. He said that in his speech.
Mhm.
And it was, like 2 days after 9/11. I can't remember exactly when, but that at the time rubbed me kind of the wrong way. Cause I'm like, dude, we just had a terrorist attack. 3,000 people died. And
Mhm.
you're telling everybody to go shopping?
But let me tell you,
That
dollars
didn't
and
make
cents-
no sense to me.
It did make sense to me. Let me tell you why. In 2001, before September 11, I had like 45 employees.
Mhm.
We had residential, commercial, construction. We had air conditioning service. So it was about 45. After 9/11, it was just like 2008. I went down to about 7 employees. So there was a complete and total collapse of the economy. And so when he says that, those are code words to business people to start spending, to generate. He was priming the pump. And so that's why some of us went along with it. You're right. We weren't looking into sound fiscal matters. We were just trying to get the economy, and it was boo bait for the bubbas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, question, because there was an attack in 1993 when I wasn't even a thought. So how do you guys consider that in relation to 2001?
Dry runs. That's what they do. These
Was it what was the Kansas City year?
No. The attack on the World Trade Center in 93.
Yeah, there was a bombing in 1993, and my
Yeah.
mom used to work there, and that was the moment where she stopped working there because she was like, "This is a target," and so, and that was in 1993. So that's why I'm asking you guys, if you remember, do you think that there's any connection to this, or like,
I
what do you
totally,
think?
I totally
Go ahead.
believe there was a connection, because if you look at the way these people operate, they do something small to see what they can get away with, and figure out, okay, what went wrong with this operation? How do we need to fix it? How are we going to be able to pull this off? Kind of like, and I'm gonna have to use code words on this, kind of like all the diseases we seen in 2000. What was it? Every freaking year, every other year, we had a new disease.
Mhm.
Those were all dry runs for CV. So I believe that 1993 was a dry run for what they wanted to do with the World Trade Center.
Wow. It's hard to believe, because we're talking Americans on Americans. We're supposed to love each other. Our fathers sacrificed.
But we don't live in that world anymore. We haven't for a long time. There are treasonous people that do not like this country and want to see us go down.
Jimmy, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not. I'm just telling you.
I know it is hard to believe. Yeah.
Mhm.
And go ahead, Laylee.
If it distorts a little bit, let me know. I some of the things you said distorted, but it goes back many years, and especially in the 1800s, whenever you had the elites, then the Carnegies, the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, you name them, the wealthy of that era. They set about planning what they were going to do. And they had a plan. They made sure that they started wars as they needed them to, we call them false flags now, but fake events. It's like, and that's why I can't wait for Jeff to get here, because he could just rattle off all these things, like the sinking of the help me out, Jimmy.
Lusitania.
Thank you.
But Lily, but who is they? You keep saying they. Who is
can
they?
I answer that? Can I answer that?
Okay.
At
Please.
the founding of our Constitution, in the Constitution Convention of, was it 1783, George Washington was presiding the Continental Congress. And we built a country. We built a country like Mexico built a country, like Canada, a republic. And we write it down on a piece of paper. You have to be 35 years to vote. And there's the Senate and the House and everything, the immigration, the tariffs, the taxation and everything in building a country, a constitution. But we were special. We were unique in the human landscape. This is why we as Americans are better. That's why that flag behind you is superior than all the other flags on earth. Because if you go to the preamble to the Bill of Rights, in General Assembly, the president of the Continental Congress says, wait. There's members of certain states that will not sign this Constitution unless we put in these 10 amendments. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And he says that the right of speech shall not be infringed. So we put negative rights. What it means is not rights of mankind, human rights, but we put limits on the power of government. Government is force. We put a check and a balance on the government. So since the beginning of time, there's been people who are angry with that because we're unique. We're the best people on earth. I know the Jews think they're the best, and the Germans, they start a war every couple of 40 years and they think they're the best. And the Japanese like to go crazy sometimes, and the Russians. But really, we're the best people on earth because we have a Bill of Rights. Like the British before us had the Magna Carta. But we put it on paper. Martin Luther King says, all I want is for the white man to live up to what he put on paper. And so we put something unique on paper, the Bill of Rights. And everybody tries to copy it. But some people, like Lily was talking about, the Vanderbilts and the power people, they hate that because they see us as plebes. They don't see us as humans. They see us as a serial number, or they see us as just as an ownership. But no, our fathers were so special and grandeur that they gave us human rights that nobody has ever seen. The great masses of millennia after millennia were human beings living in sheer squalor and being decimated as peasants and slaves. And along comes this American experiment, which gives us the right for us four people of unique, different backgrounds to have one common background, the American background. That's what a lot
With
of
the
people
freedom
hate
of speech, with the freedom of speech being paramount to our right.
Bingo. Ditto what Lily just said.
And the Second
Right.
Amendment protecting your First Amendment.
Bingo.
Correct.
I definitely, I
Bingo.
totally agree with that.
Bingo.
And so if anyone asks themselves, okay, what are they doing now? They're censored. I mean, look at, censorship is super scary real. Okay.
Zuckerberg admitted it.
That goes against our Constitution.
Yep.
Then any opportunity that they have to come up with some reason to try and say why the guns need to be gone or we don't need them, that is the only reason we haven't been invaded by other countries, is because they know there's a gun in
On
the
every
hands
corner.
of most of the people.
Yes. Bingo.
Going back to 9/11 and in light of the Constitution part of this subject, after 9/11, can somebody name for me which right in the Constitution was violated after 9/11?
Was it number 4?
Yes, number 4. Number 4 is they can't search you without a
Seize or
warrant.
anything. Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So what
Let's figure it out.
happened? So for our protection, now think about this, how they use the wording here and compare it to CV. For your protection, we need to violate your Fourth Amendment here so that we can make sure that we search everybody before they get on a plane, even if it's a 95-year-old grandma. She's got to take her shoes off. Everybody's getting searched, which is a violation of the Constitution.
Correct.
But they said it. They said it because they wanted to, for the betterment of the people. It's the same playbook that they used with CV. For the betterment of the people, we need to do this, this, and this, which will all violate your constitutional right.
Exactly.
So these people are the uniparty. These people are these big organizations that team up with the government because they're getting paid under the table. That's fascism. So that's who these people are.
Right.
They're our brothers, our neighbors, our friends. It's us who go along with it.
That's why Kennedy, I think it was Kennedy. Was it Kennedy? I think it was Kennedy that said that our enemies is going to come from within.
Within, yes. That famous speech of Kennedy's.
Yes. And this is not invasion. Oh God, what was the line? Oh,
When he talks about the secret societies within.
Yeah, this is basically that we were being invaded from within. And if you listen to some of Trump's speeches here lately, he's been talking about that. He's talked about that for a while. He's talked about the invisible enemy. When he says invisible enemy, he's referring to the same people that Kennedy was.
Yes.
And Reagan said in '64 at the RNC, he said, you and I must have the courage to tell our elected officials there is a line that they will not cross.
Correct.
And that happened in COVID. When I put on the face mask, the social distancing, we all had to have the courage because it was the color of law. They weren't laws. They were made up rules.
Yep.
But a lot of us went along like sheep. But a lot of us fought and we got kicked out of stores. We got kicked out of restaurants. I'm a Christian man. I'm American and I shouldn't have to do this. But every time I got kicked out, I went down flipping them off. I'm a grandfather in my town. I'm a business owner. I shouldn't have to do that. But I felt it was my duty.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. That was awesome, guys. Okay, so the next theory that I'm gonna get into with the towers and how they went down was that it probably wasn't planes. It was probably explosions.
Oh,
and I want to show and I want to show this clip of a man talking about it.
The Red Cross rep was like, he goes over and he says, well, you got to stay behind this line because they're thinking about bringing the building down. They didn't say what building. They just said bringing a building down. So we're like, okay, we'll take their word for it. We'll stay behind the line. And he went over and he talked to one of the, through all the commotion, he goes over and he asked one of the Red Cross or one of the firefighters what was going on. I guess, I don't know if he got an answer or not. He came back over with his hand over the radio and it sounded like a countdown. And at the last few seconds, he took his hand off and you heard 3, 2, 1. And he was just saying, just run for your life, just run for your life. And then it was like another 2, 3 seconds. You heard explosions, like boom. There's like a distinct sound. It's not like when in compression, like boom, 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 like floors that were dropping and collapsing. This was boom, and like you felt a rumble in the ground, like almost like you wanted to grab onto something. That, to me, I knew that was an explosion. There was no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
And he's not the only one to make that statement either.
Exactly.
And I don't know anything about this. I have to plead ignorance on this. This is a subject I'm ignorant of, but on that. But we have a thing in our religion, in our common background, in our shared background, 2 witness rules, and there's a lot of witnesses, there's a lot of witnesses that are sharing this. Like Jimmy said, there's a lot of people who said that, and they were eyewitness account. You can't just discard these people. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I was there too. I was a little girl, and it felt like the ground was shaking. Like you felt, it almost felt like an earthquake. That's what made everybody start running, and almost like a stampede, because there was just no more. Like you lost your mind because everything was shaking. And then you saw it with your own 2 eyes, and now I'm questioning everything. Like, what was that? What did we feel? What did we hear?
I have to give validity to these eyewitness reports. And the reason why is because of my experience with J6. I was there. I saw it.
That's how I feel.
I saw a lot of things that didn't make the news. I reported on it that night and debunked it that night. And as time went on, I saw the media saying what they were saying. I'm like, they're freaking lying. So that's why with these eyewitness accounts from 9/11, that's why I take these folks seriously, because they had no agenda. They were just telling the truth. And so when it comes to these explosions and everything, we've all seen the videos. I mean, they try to say that the planes took it down. Okay, well, what happened to Building 7?
We're gonna, yep. I have a little clip about that. Yep. Go
and
ahead.
There was other people that knew about it ahead of time. And there was, I think his name is Silverstein or,
yes.
Yeah. So explain that a little bit, Jimmy.
Oh, there was a Israeli company. There's several companies in the World Trade Center, and these Israelis, I'm just going to call them Israelis. They were told not to come to work that day.
Right. And the one man was told to take out extra insurance.
Oh yeah, there was. Yeah, he was told to take out extra insurance on the destruction of a building. He did, like, I think it was June or July of that year that he took out insurance policies, and then this event happened in September, and he collected millions of dollars.
Yeah, and he originally, when it happened, he didn't hold back saying, certain things that he knew. And then years later, he was like tight-lipped and basically said, the 9/11 commission report is what happened and blah, blah, blah. And people were saying, well, what about what you said about, 20 years ago? And he, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, people wanted to stay alive. And people who did know about it. And there was evidence with lots of people on the street talking about stuff, just like the thing that happened in Las Vegas. When that happened, oh God, there was endless amounts of people who were reporting it. Some people, their cars mysteriously, they died. Some of the people, their stuff was confiscated, taken away. I mean, there's just... that's like a whole nother huge conspiracy thing that can be proven away with endless amounts of eyewitness reports of what was happening. There's
one more that I want to share of this man that allegedly was talking about the truth of what was going on because he was there, and then shortly after he was killed.
Yes.
Well, me and Mr. Hesh, Corporation Counsel, were on the 23rd floor. I told him we got to get out of here. We started walking down the stairs. We made it to the 8th floor. Big explosion. Blew us back into the 8th floor. And I turned to Hesh. I said, this is it. We're dead. We're not going to make it out of here.
In 2001, Barry Jennings was the Deputy Director of Emergency Services for the New York City Housing Authority. After the first plane hit the North Tower at 8:46 a.m. on the morning of 9/11, Jennings was called to the city's Office of Emergency Management in World Trade Center Building 7, along with Corporation Counsel Michael Hess, to help coordinate the emergency response. Hours later, World Trade Center Building 7, also known as the Salomon Brothers Building, collapsed at free fall acceleration directly into the path of most resistance. After 7 years of investigation, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, determined that the building had not come down due to explosives or controlled demolition, as many alleged, or due to structural damage from the collapse of the Twin Towers, an explosion in the building's fuel oil systems, or any of the other suggestions that had been put forward and retracted by NIST over the course of its investigation. In September 2008, just as NIST was presenting its final report concluding that WTC-7 had spontaneously collapsed from ordinary office fires, it was reported that Barry Jennings had passed away in hospital the month before. No further details of his death were offered. Dylan Avery, seeking to bring closure to Barry Jennings' life, answer questions about his death, and honor the bravery of a 9/11 survivor who spoke the truth even when it was unpopular, hired a private investigator to determine the circumstances of Jennings' death. In a remarkable and bizarre turn of events, however, After pursuing the case, the investigator referred the matter to the police, refunded his fee, and told Avery never to contact him again. To this day, no time or cause of death of Barry Jennings has ever been publicly announced or confirmed.
The man stepped over bodies. We know that happened. He and Hess both talked about internal explosions. That building housed the CIA, the Secret Service, the SEC.
I'm just confused about one thing and one thing only. Why World Trade Center 7 went down in the first place. I'm very confused about that. I know what I heard. I heard explosions.
So that was my clip to introduce Building 7 and your theories or what really happened to Building Number 7. I've never looked into this. We've always just focused on the Twin Towers, and we never look deeper or dig deeper until you see stuff like this. And like how Shaq said in the chat, that this was covered almost 10 years ago. And I was still a child 10 years ago. So this is my awakening process with you guys. Now I'm old enough to understand, and I'm awake to certain things that I would have never accepted 10 years ago, you know? So how do you feel about Building 7?
The financial money that is owed by people in power, it's called derivatives. And I'm sure Jimmy can fill in the blanks of what my head knows, but I can't put all into words. With that building going down, enormous amount of debt was erased by the people who are in control.
Wow.
For example, does everybody remember what was announced on September 10th? Of 2001?
Yeah, no. I do.
Ruby, do you know about this?
No, I don't.
Donald Rumsfeld,
tell him who he is.
The loss of money.
Getting ready to. He was the Secretary of Defense of the United States.
They lost the trillions of dollars.
He comes out and does a press conference and says, for some unknown reason, the Department of Defense cannot account for $2.3 trillion.
Yeah, okay, now I know what you're talking about. Yep, okay.
Yep.
So I'm sure, and then if you listen to that video, it said what things were housed there. CIA was housed there too. Secret Service was housed there too. So what documentation? Now you got to remember, email wasn't a really big thing back then. It was just starting.
Right.
There was no social media. Everything was done on computers and paper, pretty much.
Right.
There were
derivatives.
Yeah. And so that goes back to the 5 Israelis being caught in that parking lot, and they had all these computers. Well, where the hell did they get the computers from? Why were those computers there? Okay. Anyway, I digress. But also going about the Pentagon, the records for that 2.3, there was a lot of records there. What hit the Pentagon hit the area where all those records were held.
Yep. Okay, so they were trying to either delete things. They were like how we would delete on the internet. They're deleting it in real life. So what do you think they're trying to hide?
What they've done or haven't done with the money that the taxpayers have given.
Yeah. Look at the irony also on Our Little World. We're JWs. On that day, didn't the Guardian newspaper or the UK, was it the UK Guardian, came out that the Jehovah's Witnesses were an NGO?
That was in October.
It wasn't on September 11th?
No, it was October. Okay. October that year they came out.
Okay. I always thought it was September 11th, that same day. I could be wrong. Somebody could fact check me like they checked Trump last night. But but we weren't paying attention in those days. Everybody was everybody. What is it called when you a black swan event? Is that what they call it?
Yeah. This was blacks. Yeah, but you got to remember too. They did this. This is not the first time that they've done something like this. They did it with the Titanic, and they did it with Pearl Harbor.
Oh, whoa! Hold up.
Now that's
The-
deep.
Wait.
in
oh,
in
wait.
the Titanic, okay, remember I mentioned in the elites at that time, the people who were all the movers and shakers of how they're going to form out all these companies and this industries, and the power brokers of the world.
Mhm.
So those that wanted to take away some of their competition, those
Died that
people,
day. Yeah.
yep,
Mhm.
I
Right.
remember the phrase I was thinking of, infiltration instead of invasion. That's what these
Right.
people have been doing, is infiltrating us.
That's
And
so true. That's so true, because when I was a kid, when growing up in the Cold War, you guys probably remember we were trained about a red dawn. We
Yep.
thought there was going to be a red dawn, a literal red dawn, and we had talked about it. And we saw documentaries that in Cuba and in Russia they had street signs where they were going to take down Main Street and Vine and put Kremlin, and so there was an actual invasion of the United States, but they didn't. We voted.
But what is
them
a
in.
red dawn, Jesse? I've never heard
A
of
red
that.
dawn is when the communist forces invade our country. So we all have the
Oh.
Second Amendment. We could defend. Every grandma has a machine gun or
Mm.
whatever to defend the homeland. But they didn't. They did it softly. We voted for the commies in. They didn't have to invade us.
well, we didn't vote for them. They cheated and installed themselves.
Exactly. But the electoral system has implanted them all over the place. So they don't have to invade.
and they've been doing this and planning things. And in that second video, Ruby, that I sent this afternoon, it's an older video. So, don't expect fancy documentary style, but they do go on different points and they show some documents. And one of those was about how they wanted to create a war with Cuba. They wanted to be able to justify certain things that the United States could do. And so they planned how they were going to make it look like Cuba was sending missiles and took out one of our spaceships. And they literally wrote it in their official documents they hand to other people within their own organization about what they planned. And I forget the name of the pilot. Was it
Operation
Glenn?
Northwoods.
Yeah, that's it. What was it? Scott Glenn? Who was it they were going to take out?
Oh, I can't remember.
Whatever the pilot of that particular missile spaceship that they were testing, they were planning to take him out.
Would it be Senator John Glenn?
Yeah, it probably is. It's we could probably look it up, but the point of it is that these type of operations cost a lot of money. And going back to why did the money need to be disappear, and why did the paper records of the money that for all these countless projects, why did they need to disappear? Well, because it's a record. It's a record of what they did. And so, I mean, the timing is just way too bizarre.
And what we have to remember is they want war. They want a civil war. They want world wars. And why? Because that's how they make a crap ton of money. And so, like with Pearl Harbor, who was the president? Roosevelt. He knew that the Japanese were going to bomb Pearl Harbor. He knew it and let it happen.
Yep.
Because he knew that if that was the case, then the American people would say, "Oh my God." Tell me if this doesn't sound familiar. Oh my God, we've been attacked on our homeland. We have to go to war. We have to get involved with World War II.
And they make movies about this stuff.
Same thing. Same thing as 2001. What were the American people feeling the next day? You had everybody driving around with their American flags hanging from their cars and in their yards. We were unified as a people. They took advantage of that unity to push their agenda to get us on board so that they could go look for weapons of mass destruction that never freaking existed and started the Iraq War.
Right. They wanted, and they had already pushed that Iraq war, and the American people had turned it down countless times. No, we don't want this war. We don't want this war. Well, they knew they needed to step it up in order to make the war happen, so people would be fooled into.
Okay.
And George Bush Jr. was just finishing up the operation that his daddy started back in '91.
Yes.
And, you know, going back to that Cuba thing, I'd like to interject that.
Ruby's mind is being blown right now.
Yes, and I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to watch this live over and educate myself all over again. But after Jesse gives his point, I have a question. Go ahead, Jesse.
Okay. Yeah, the Bay of Pigs invasion. John F. Kennedy was a peace lover, but he was involved in there was a lot of wars. There was Vietnam. There was finishing up of Korea from the previous decade. Dwight David Eisenhower was a peace lover. Something interesting when I go back, and on YouTube, there's a lot of great videos. John F. Kennedy did not want to pursue war in Cuba.
No.
But Eisenhower talked about the industrial complex. They did, like Jimmy says, there's a lot of money involved. But Kennedy was a peace lover. He really was. And he looked for a lot of strength in Dwight David Eisenhower, who was a strong general in World War II. He saved us in World War II, June 6, 1944. And he also looked for Richard Nixon. So a lot of us people think that the Republicans and Democrats hate each other, but a lot of them are very, Kennedy looked for inspiration in Eisenhower, and Eisenhower loved Kennedy, and they were in opposing parties because they were fighting people within their own administration who wanted war.
Kind of like Trump and Kennedy now.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Kennedy's a great patriot. He's going to go down as one of the great, in my opinion, and it's just an opinion, because he reminds me of the Jehovah's Witness apostate. His whole family has disfellowshipped him. He's given up everything for what he believes in. So I really think he's a great man. Just my humble opinion.
Yeah, I believe so too.
Okay, guys. So this is one question, and anybody can answer it. So if we are talking about all of these false flags, all of these lives being lost over money, because it seems to me like history repeats itself, everything is about money, and they are willing to let Americans die for it. So I don't think our government protects us at all. They don't care about us at all. And that's why I'm so anti-Fed. But how do we separate a real calamity, a real terrorist attack, and then have that feeling of, I want to sign up for the military. I want to protect my country, to have that patriotism, because we don't even know whether or not it's real at the time. Like you said, in 2001, we would have not known that. And if you said something against it, you were considered a traitor or something. Like you don't believe that this is real or whatever. Like you're supposed to go with whatever the narrative or like whatever people they say or what the TV says, right? So how do we say if something bad happens like a 9/11 again, and we say all these people died, but nobody trusts the government, nobody's going to sign up for the military. You think they're going to have a draft? I don't know. But then people are going to say, no, I'm not going to fight for this country because they don't have my back. I don't trust them at all. But and we're being attacked, if it was real, let's just say. What happens then when everybody says, oh, 3,000 people died, we have to respond. And then they're like, no, we're not. Anti-war, don't go to war. Are we just going to let Americans die and do nothing about it?
Wow, great question.
Great question. Yeah.
I'm processing it.
So I have a few opinions on it. I think we'd be hard pressed to find something that's happened that was actually not planned or perpetuated upon us by those in power. History is not real. They have faked for thousands of years so many things to make what they want to look or to act like it's real. I mean, and just to throw in a little religious thing, we don't even really know if Jesus was killed like that whole thing. We only know what we've been told. And it's like they can make it up as they go along and completely erase so much from generations. Enough generations have died away that they don't even know it's there. But in our, say the 1700s, from the beginning of this country, these things have been planned by both sides for their agendas. It's like even the concept of, our civil wars and supposedly the North against the South and all these different things. It's just been one giant, useless self-indulgence.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. So, but to protect your country or to defend if you were living in the North, you would defend the North. If you were in the South, you would defend that. If you were American, you would defend against the British during all of those wars, right? So if we're awake now and we say we don't trust the government or everything's a psyop, everything is fake, everything is planned, then when the next big thing happens and a lot of people die, are you going to say, you know what, let me sign up and defend my country? Or you're going to say, absolutely not. I don't trust nothing and I'm not going to involve myself. And you lose your home, you lose your country, and you can lose your life. So it's like, this is a gray area that I don't even know how to feel about it, because I'm like, I want to feel that way, how we used to feel in 2001 or any other tragedy, because you don't want to get invaded or whatever. You see something crazy happening on the TV, of course it's going to get you like emotionally charged. So how do you handle that?
Let me have a crack at it for 1 second. Okay. Ruby, have you heard of the Tiananmen Square massacre?
No.
Tiananmen Square. Okay, wow, you're very young. I'm sorry. But in China, in the Beijing and Tiananmen Square, there was a revolution, an uprising. And the first Chinese soldiers that went under to quash the student uprising in China, and it happened around that time of 9/11. I just can't remember the year right now off the top of my head.
87, 88, 86, somewhere in that area.
Wow, I'm so sorry. I'm farther back. Okay, thank you, Jimmy. I'm way off.
I think that's what it was.
The first soldiers that went in there, the People's Republic soldiers, would not fire upon their brothers. They would not fire upon, because a brother will not fire upon a brother. So what they did is they brought in soldiers from other provinces and drugged them. And then they broke up the student rioting. You don't have to worry about Americans here in the United States. We still have, I think, a lot of loving people who will not shoot upon brother or go against brother. But you replace them. What do you think the hordes coming over from the third world are doing?
Oh, hell no.
Yes, they're going to be replacing the police department. They're going to be replacing the border patrol.
Yeah.
And they will have no problem going against the citizen. Look, when you have a police officer who is not a citizen of your country, he's never had to take an oath to the Constitution.
Oh, hell no.
But that's happening.
That's why the defund the police agenda. That's why they're doing that, is because the sheriffs have certain powers that regular police officers don't have. There's like their job is to do things for the people, and even if it means not obeying their government.
Let me take a crack at this question that Ruby asked. I think inherently in our nature as human beings, we don't want to go to war. I think the majority of us just want to be left alone, live our lives. Love outperforms the thought of war. Oh Lord, we got some feedback or whatever happened.
Yeah, I muted Trump card.
Okay. So I think the majority of humanity doesn't want war. And that there's a select few individuals out there and organizations that do. Now let's look at history. Before 1776, you had in the 14th, 15th, 16th century, you had little skirmishes between kingdoms and countries or whatever, a
lot of them were planned.
Yeah, little battles. And then if you go back to after 1871, the United States, we had so much war. I don't think humans in their nature would want all that. Something is outside of that pushing it all. So I think that's one reason why the United States military right now has had a hard time with their recruits, because there's people out there that have woken up and they're like, yeah, you know what? Screw this. We're not getting involved with this. I heard a report today about what's going on in Ukraine. Zelensky signed a conscription law, and they're going in and grabbing guys and sending them to the front lines. And there was a story where there was one sergeant or whatever, he was being fired upon from his left flank, and he's like, why am I getting fired from this side? There's supposed to be guys over there. They deserted and took off because they didn't want to fight. And so I think that if you were able to get rid of this virus from the planet, then I don't think we would really have to worry about world wars and nuclear wars and all that stuff anymore. Now, that's not to say a few countries might get a little pissed off at each other for a trade deal or something, but hey, you can work things out through deals. That's why
Trump was so effective.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say, because that's how Trump is. That's why he's saying, I can end I can end that thing in Ukraine in 24 hours.
Like that. Boom.
And he has the bully pulpit. He also has a big ass arsenal, and he showed that picture to that general. He showed a picture of his house.
And he's also got all the information of what these evil people have been doing for all these years. Because you got to remember, when he got into office, they didn't expect him to win. They didn't go and cover all their shit up. So guess who got to see it all? Trump.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
He made friends with Rocket Man. Can you believe it?
Yes. Really quickly, I want to say hello to Wild Wall and to Trump Card. Since we have more people, I'm gonna reinstate my 3-minute. My 3 minutes.
I'm gonna go out and make room because we got a Trump replacement here. Good night,
I'm just gonna be brief. I'll be real brief.
Go ahead.
I'm going to try to answer along with what Jimmy has just stated. This Q movement, the Great Awakening, is called the Great Awakening for a reason, because what Trump and the alliances around the world, including Russia and China and India, when the truth of all this great exposure becomes completely disclosed, for the people to see what really has been happening over the centuries, and what about the children. This is all about the children. This will bring all the people together, and that the wars will end, because people in all countries will know the truth, and it'll set us free from all these corrupt rulers, the controllers of the world that's been happening for most of our lives, and all of our lives and beyond. And so they call it the Great Awakening, and soon the disclosure of what's been happening underground in our with the children, and things too awful to even think about, will bring the people together, and this will never happen again. That's all I wanted to say.
Wow.
Thank you, Trump Card. I want to, if it's okay, Ruby, with you, I want to kind of
So Jimmy, you got 3 minutes, and we're gonna move to Wild.
Okay. I tell you what, just go with Wild.
Okay, Wild. Tell us how you feel. You got 3 minutes.
I got 3 minutes. I might be jumping the gun. I just wanted to ask, are we going to get to the Pentagon plane that hit, or is this going to focus just mainly on the World Trade Centers on 9/11?
We are going to get there because Jimmy sent me something on Twitter. And Jimmy, if you want me to show it, I can show it. So do you want to share your thought first? And then we can do that, what Wild just mentioned?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share it, because what Trump Card was talking about was, the Great Awakening, and it also follows up with the implementation of Nasara Jasara. Those are laws. Now, how does this tie into 9/11? Well, this is the part that I hesitated saying at the beginning, because we needed to build a framework for this. this
Let me show that other one that she's talking about and cover that. And because that point that you're fixing to get into is
Sure,
really important.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, play the video, Ruby.
Okay, let's play this video.
Then I guess I'll pick back up on what I was saying.
Yes, I'm excited.
Is this the one?
Yeah, this is the video you sent me on Twitter.
Okay. Oh, this is the one in Shanksville.
I think we finally arrived out of the scene.
The center of the plane, how it went down into ground.
Yeah, okay. Looks like dew. Is there no sound here?
I don't know, right? It just cut out. That's weird.
Yeah, I'm like, do we have sound? Or are they just showing this picture there?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Deborah Pata visited the crash site in Ethiopia this morning.
Good morning. Behind me, huge piles of dirt obscure a massive crater, which was caused when the plane nosedived into the ground. Mangled pieces of wreckage lie strewn across this crash site, which is now guarded by local armed militia. This huge crater opened up when the Boeing 737 dropped from the sky and ripped through the arid wasteland below. Its size and depth give a sense of just how powerful the impact was. Everywhere you go, there is mangled wreckage like this one, and in amongst it are the charred personal belongings, a reminder that so many people died in this crash. Many of those on board this flight were young people who simply wanted to change.
Okay, so they were comparing that and then what happened to United 93. And I think that's what kind of dives into the Pentagon, because there was no plane, there was no wings, there was nothing. There was no evidence of that.
Did you get the clip or that since you want the Pentagon one?
Let me see.
Because I thought that's one you were
in
going to play.
in the meantime, Wild, if you have any comments, you can go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just curious if y'all were going to get to that tonight, because to me, that's as big a story as the World Trade Centers, as far as anyone that's been by the Pentagon, or if you've watched any movies, there's cameras everywhere at the Pentagon. I mean,
Oh,
this is the headquarters of the Department of Defense. I mean, everybody knows this is a military complex. You can't even go outside your house now without getting on somebody's cell phone or a police camera somewhere in a little town like where I live. You trying to tell me there's no credible video of that plane hitting that Pentagon? Everybody should focus on that. This is supposed to be the most military, I mean, the name Department of Defense headquartered there should be all kind of records of that plane hitting, coming, going, people taking wreckage, bodies out, and everything. But that's why I always focus on this. But going back to the New York story real quick, I remember when it first broke, what caught my attention is they showed supposedly that plane slamming into the World Trade Center. It had got incinerated, obliterated. But then they show, and I'm trying to find that news article. It wouldn't surprise me if they've removed it, but this is many, many years ago. But they said that they found one of those expired passports from one of them, a terrorist. Somehow that miraculously survived all that fire,
Yeah.
all that destruction, but nothing else did. None of the fuselage, none of the other baggage or luggage or anything. But somehow they found that just floating around on the ground down there of one of these supposed terrorists. That caught my attention immediately. As soon as I saw that news report, I was trying to look it up. I can't find it right now, but if anybody else that saw that, maybe Jimmy did because he said, yeah, but it just struck me as odd. So you're trying to tell me that y'all found that survived that big ball of flame that you're trying to tell us about just to prove who did it, supposedly, who did this. Yeah, and that never struck good with me. It's sort of like that little warning bell when I was in the Watchtower organization. As we were young, certain stuff didn't make sense, but we're like, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm not looking at it right, because surely other people would see this or notice this. And then once we got to talking to other people, there was people that viewed it the way we did. We're like, you're right, that don't make sense. It don't add up. Same way with this. There's certain stuff that just did not add up. And as they said, you go to any other plane crash that what was happening in Pennsylvania that you just showed? I think it was, or somewhere.
Yeah, and they were comparing it to a plane crash in Ethiopia where you can see the debris, you can see the pieces of the plane and the personal items.
There should have been
nothing in that one.
There should have been something instead of just a massive crater. So once again, no evidence of the plane. Same way in New York, that it just obliterated. And like I said, we've got the video of the planes going in. But I tell you what, there should have been so much more evidence available with all those cameras from different angles in New York. We're talking about the biggest city in the United States. There should have been so much more documentation that's not being released, or that there's a massive cover-up going on somewhere. And I will have to say, there was all this hush-hush. Anytime you mention the word Israel around this time, you got censored. Back then.
Oh, yeah.
Because I tried to say it. I was like, well, wait a minute. All I was trying to do, even back then, and I was still pretty much a witness at the time, but I'm like, who does this benefit? And man, I got censored back then. I'm like, oh, no, I'm not saying they had anything to do with it. I'm just saying it would benefit them if this war proceeds. I mean, it don't take a genius or a neurologist or a rocket scientist to realize who's going to be the benefit in that particular area of the world if we're forced to go to war over there. And anyhow, but it all struck me as odd. All these little red flags, warning bells, and even back then I just pushed them aside, sort of like what I did for a long time with the Watchtower. Oh, it's just me being overly critical or overly sensitive, And then we realize many other people see things similar, and that's why the Watchtower and even the governments, they want to isolate us. They want to keep us from talking, because then they can make you think, oh, you're the only crazy person out, supposedly to them crazy. Or what is it the Watchtower says? Mentally diseased. The government does the same thing. Oh, that's a conspiracy theorist.
Yes.
If they can label you an apostate in the Watchtower organization, a lot of people won't listen to you. If the government can label you as a conspiracy theorist, automatically people will be like, that's a nut job. Let's not listen to anything they say. And they've won half the battle right there. That's why I listen to everybody. I don't care if they're a believer, non-believer, leftist, rightist, a Democrat. I want to hear the whole story from every side. I don't want to be told what to believe anymore. Bring me the evidence. Sort of like Doubting Thomas in the Bible. Show me the evidence and let me decide. But anyhow, I'll leave it at that. I just was curious if that struck anybody else as odd about that password. Oh, one more quick thing. That is something else we all should be very upset about. And it's very obvious on the internet. Do a search on it. All these guys, supposed terrorists, all their passports were either expired. Some of them was on one was on a student visa. Others were on work visas. Every one of them was expired. We should be mad at the government for not doing their job. Why didn't? If that would be one of us, they would have nailed the shit out of me if I just left my driver's license at home. I'll tell you that right now.
And you know what? I'm going to intervene. I'm Jeff. Hey, everyone. Talking about the terrorists, there was 19 of them, 6 or 7 of them at that day when they saw their picture on the TV. They're like, wait a minute, I'm not dead. I'm right here. So everything is a farce, you know?
Yep.
It's crazy.
Good point, Wild.
Did you find that video, Ruby?
No, the only video that I have is the one that we just shared, and then you sent me a screenshot of something about
Look
weapons.
before the screenshot. It should have came from EDub. I've forwarded from EDub.
Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys my DMs.
Oh, I can't see your DMs. It's too little.
Oh, it's too little. Okay,
All
so
right, go.
you sent me the video, and then I said I'll play this. Thank you, and then you sent me this
It said
screenshot.
that. Okay. Scroll back up.
Okay, up. Oops. I sent you a StreamYard. Oh, that was on September 3rd. So there's nothing in between here.
Oh crap.
Yeah. Did you send it on the big picture thing?
No, I may have. I don't think so. It's the video. It's the video showing the missile going into the Pentagon.
Oh.
Yeah. I tell you what. Let me jump off here for a second. Let me try to find it. I'll send it to you. Let me put my dogs out and I'll come back on.
Yes. Okay. Come. Yeah. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I'll do that. Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Ruby,
Go ahead, Lily. Yep.
Jeff is here finally.
Hi.
And you were asking some questions about why they would do that. Why would they do that much just to cover their tracks as far as the money is concerned? And so maybe he could kind of he didn't get to have the benefit of hearing all the stuff we already talked about, and doesn't quite get the track. So he's just jumping in here sort of cold. And I might try and guide him a little bit with the areas that we were you had really good questions about and trying to learn about. So why would they do that,
What
Jeff?
money? The 2.3 trillion missing?
And
The day
also,
before when Rumsfeld said that? Is that what you're talking?
and also Building 7. What was it?
Building 7 was the Security Exchange Commission, and basically they're hiding all the derivatives, all the debt they have to, all the debt they consume. They have to write everything down. So they just want to burn it all up. I don't know the whole logistics of all that, but I know that's where the SEC was, and they were hiding something. Definitely where the money went to. Now the 2.3 trillion missing, that's really low of what they really steal from us. I mean, the Rothschilds are worth 500 trillion. They're not here around here anymore, but it's all black ops. It's all the black sites that fund this and pay off to the assassins, to their killers, to do their silence, to silence people,
Right.
And explain about the Water Street one. That happened.
Okay, Hurricane Sandy, you were in New York at that time, were you, Ruby, in 2011?
Yeah. Well, I was in Florida, but we watched
Oh,
it on
okay.
the TV. But my whole family was there. They got flooded in because they
Yeah.
didn't
And-
leave.
And this is the explanation of when you were asking and saying, well, what about these different events? Like, why do these happen, and how do we know that is what they're doing? And I said, because they're covering up their tracks for various things. So go ahead.
So the 55 Water Street in Manhattan is the largest vault in the world. And I when Hurricane Sandy, now I found this after it happened. I talked to a New York fireman. I was still in New Jersey at the time, and he said, that all flooded. We drained it out, and then it mysteriously caught fire and burned all the paper debt that they have now. Water, you could still, recover some papers and stuff like that. So they mysteriously set it on fire. You can't make this
to
stuff
tell
up.
them
It's crazy.
what they were taking, what they were covering up. What was
Derivatives, paper debt, anything that they have accumulated that they say that we owe. And I don't understand it exactly. Why would they, like you're confused? And I got confused too. Like, well, I don't understand. If they're the ones that make the debt, why are they burning that? There's more to it than I just know a little logistics of that. But I'm still researching that because I kind of like just shook my head and said, that's the deep state. That's what they do.
Right.
And going back to 9/11, of all the areas that were targeted, the 88th floor of the Twin Towers, that's where the FBI office was. And there was a band of patriots that were investigating that 2.3 trillion that was missing. Also, the Pentagon, that area where the missile hit too, that they targeted the people that were trying to investigate. And that's what they do. They cut loose ends. They just kill.
Right. Okay.
And
So one of my other questions that I asked when everybody was on was that, okay, so now we're awake. We find out there's so much corruption. They're going to delete paper. They're going to delete people if they have to keep their tracks clean.
Yeah.
And we already know the deep state exists and things like that. But they do this also for money.
Oh, yeah.
They're stealing it. That's why they want endless wars, like Lily was talking about. But my thing is, okay, so if we have another 9/11, a Pearl Harbor, those types of attacks on us, how do we even separate what we might think, oh, is that a psyop or is it real? Because if you want to protect yourself, protect your country, you would want to sign up and defend your country. You would want to, to serve, right? When we think in terms of like the military. But now we know there's so much corruption. So you wouldn't want to fight for your country. You're not going to sign up to be a soldier. You're not going to want to sign up to fight for this country. So how do we deal with that? Because for me, I'm like, I wouldn't want my kids signing up for it. I wouldn't want a draft like they did in World War II. I wouldn't want any part of it with this government because I don't trust them at all. But they're going to kill us if we don't do anything about it because they've proven it with 9/11. They killed Americans and they don't have a problem with that.
Well, when we all say government, we basically really mean is the deep state behind the scenes controlling our politicians. So when we say government, your government's bad. Well, there's good people and there's a lot of bad people. They get bribed. They get paid off. Blackmailed. They drug them. No, I'm not kidding. Eyes Wide Shut, that movie with Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman. They drug people, and even if they don't want to do it, they strip them naked and they take pictures and they say, "We got you." And that's how they blackmail people. And 90% of our politicians, House and Senate, and all the way up the board, are bought and paid for. They don't work for us anymore. But you're right. It's like, why, if there's a next false flag, I'm hoping there isn't. I don't think there will be because they're getting defeated as we speak. The last one they did was the Maui. They had some kind of old weaponry and they did that.
Exactly. And it's Americans.
Like, yeah. And Ruby, the guy who was the police chief in Maui, he was the police chief in friggin' Vegas. And that is a rabbit hole because I just heard recently they were going to kill the new prince, the new good of Saudi Arabia, the old ones. He got rid of them all. And they were going after the new prince who was a good guy. And and all these black helicopters are all shooting at people. I mean, it's insane. He was the police chief. He said nothing to see here. And they gave him a nice meal ticket, and they sent him to Maui. So I hope they're all Gitmo'd and everything, and I really do because they're just evil.
That's exactly what I'm trying to get at because I want to distance myself as much as possible, but then I do have like this patriotism that doesn't allow me because I still feel like I want to vote, I want to get involved, but then at the same time I'm like, these dark people exist in the shadows. And until they're gone, nothing is going to change. So what's the point in even trying to do any of it if they still exist?
Exactly.
What would change is the more people
wake up,
do just like what you're doing now and wake up. Like waking up ex-JWs, I think is super powerful and super important because we have a real understanding of what it is to be controlled for an agenda.
You guys been lied to.
And
all your life.
And it's like if we are not lulled back into sleep, by just letting the news, which is not news, do that. We can be just amazing voices to be able to talk to people that we know, because the more people realize that what's going on in our entire global world is not what we want. We don't want all this. It's only the movers and shakers of the world that want this. So there would not, like Jimmy touched on before, there wouldn't be any reason for us to fear for wars or fear for these things, because there would be unity. And that was part of what Trump had really made a lot of progress with. And that is, he went and cut right through a lot of the useless BS with regards to what money of America was going to various places. I mean,
but they're trying to kill him. So would you not consider that almost like a mini false flag or something?
Of course,
like,
of course.
They're trying to take him out. And if they do kill him, like, we were seriously like losing our minds, because I'm like, if they kill Trump, that's it for me. Like, I will
explain to her what's going on.
Well, the real Trump.
This is a theory, okay?
Yeah,
God, you sound like Jimmy.
the real Trump is safe in somewhere in the mountains, somewhere in a DUMB, which is defense deep underground military base. So what you see here is either CGI or clones, not clones, but in masks. They have the technology to do the voiceover. We saw it in Mission Impossible. They tell you in movies what they have. So the good guys against the bad guys. So
like even last night, when I was watching the debate last night,
it's all set up.
I said to Jeff, I said, that was not the real Trump, because Trump would have eaten her for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He would have come back with endless amount of like jokes, mannerisms. Anybody that has seen him at like when he's on his game,
right?
He's not going to keep repeating the same things like that person repeating those things. He wasn't hitting all these different points in the confident way in mannerism.
But it's to show. I'm ready for disclosure. I mean, how many more people are going to wake up? If they're not going to wake up, send them off to a different planet. Because the thing is it's just the White House. This is all staged. You may not believe me, but it is, because they made ABC look like idiots. It was 3 against 1. They were not fact checking her and fact checking him. It's just to show the people. And if you don't wake up now, then come on, these people aren't going to wake up. I'm coming back from feeding the cats. And I put on a Salt Lake City Patriot radio, and I listened to some guy, and he just, you got to believe these people, what they said about last night. One lady didn't make any sense. And then one guy comes on, he's like, I don't care if she runs over a child. I'm not voting for Trump. Like, are you effing kidding me? These people will never wake up.
Okay, one question. If everything, and this is what I tell Jimmy all the time, and I think this is going to be a question for the rest of my life. If the stage and if everything is fake, then what do you fight for? Because when I was 5 years old and I saw those twin towers fall down, that is what I was reborn right there in that moment. It's like, who did this to us? And to get back to whoever did this to us.
They've been doing it for a long time, Ruby. Pearl Harbor, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea War. That's all they want is wars, right, Jimmy?
I want to answer that question for her real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
She asked the question, what am I fighting for?
Right.
Correct?
What's the point? Like, what are we going to fight for if everything's fake and staged? Yeah.
Have we seen censorship?
Yes.
Have we seen them going after our gun rights?
Exactly.
Yes.
I was going to say that.
Have we seen the violation of the Fourth Amendment?
Yes.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
They are taking away our constitutional freedoms and liberties. That's what we're fighting for.
Sovereign, sovereign beings. Exactly.
Okay, so we need to reverse or veto those laws that they've used these chaos moments to implement. So we need to get rid of those.
It'll be less government. It'll be less government. It'll be less government in the future. And that's what Thomas Jefferson said. Government governs best when governs less. we need small government, and they need to work for the people. They work for us.
Jimmy,
It all has to be revamped, Jim.
I want Jeff to make this one point and then go with where you look like you're prepared, ready. Explain to them what they said about during the Civil War, how they would get all the black people to vote Democrat.
Amendment 13th, 14th, and 15th. I have it on my phone, but I remember it. The 13th was to give them end slavery, to give them. 14th was to give them rights, and the 15th was give them citizenship. All those were for the blacks. The Republicans put that in.
Right.
0% backing from the Democrats, 100% from the Republicans. 14th Amendment, 0% Democrats, 100% Republicans, and then the 15th Amendment was given citizenship, 80% Republicans and only 20% Democrats. Now, they did that in 1964 when they wanted to give the civil rights in 1964, and here's what Lyndon Johnson said, because he got rid of Kennedy, he helped. He said, no, I'm just going to say the N-word. He said, my constituents on the Democrat side only supported me 20% to give the blacks civil rights, but I'm going to veto it, and I'm going to have these ends vote Democrat for the next 200 years. He actually said that on audio tape.
Yep.
I mean, they don't show this on mainstream. They don't want to because they're all part of the gang.
And Trump fixed that. The prejudice, all that stuff, that's long gone. I mean, whatever they show now, the racism, this is created.
Just stop talking about it. That's all.
It's not. People don't really feel that way.
No.
They push people.
It's the old playbook, they're bringing race up again. So
Okay, wait. Okay, so quick question. So, but wouldn't JFK have done that anyways? So why would Lyndon B. Johnson need to take him out to pass that through for himself, like to take all the
That's
shine?
a good question. Jimmy, do you know that? I'm sure he was going to do that. I don't know why he waited so long to do that. That's an interesting question.
I don't know the history on that part, so I can't speak to that. I don't think, well, for one, Kennedy got taken out for a couple of reasons. It wasn't because of that. So I don't know why. I mean, he had some other things he was dealing with at the time. Operation Northwoods and a few other things. I don't know. I can't speak to that.
I'll research that, Ruby, and see. Maybe Lisa will email you, and I know a guy who can answer that for me.
But
Awesome. Okay, so I have the video that you sent me, and for some reason, it was gone. It disappeared from my algorithm.
See, because it was showing that I had sent it to you.
Okay, so it's a video.
Holy shit! Somebody finally found the confiscated video that the FBI took on the day of 9/11.
There it is.
There it is. Look at that. Yeah, I saw it.
Scud missile.
They were still amongst the community because I've been awake for 2 years since it happened. That there was a Scud missile. The witnesses were silenced. The person who had this tape that turned it over to the FBI concealed this information. And as you can see, that is not a plane. That is a Scud missile, as originally thought. Fucking deep state cabal, you sons of bitches. Those who knew, we already knew you did shit. But this was the last piece of the puzzle for the evidence. With that whole entire crap with the 9/11 report that said it disintegrated. That is a Scud missile. Swedish satellite saw that there was a marking target, and that was completely put aside, and you all bought the lie. Heavenly Father, let truth prevail.
Yeah, remember when I told you that there was things that, come back into your memory and you had back then? And when I was seeing the news reports and everything, and they were showing the video footage of the Pentagon, I didn't see any plane debris.
Nothing.
I didn't see the wings going into the building. I didn't see that stuff.
And the same thing for the towers.
And it would have been more of a fire too with all the jet fuel, think
Yeah.
about it.
So you think about, they tried to pass the lie that the jet fuel burned down the steel beams and all that and did all that destruct. Why didn't it do it over at the Pentagon?
And Tower 7, they said it was office fires. It's like, oh my God.
So this kind of goes back. Oh, go ahead, Ruby. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. But before I forget, two questions come to mind.
Yes.
If that really was a missile, what happened to the actual flight and the people on that flight?
That's a good question. Now, Jimmy, you know Diego Garcia, we're a piece of land in the Indian Ocean, right? You do it on your map.
Yeah.
Do it on your map on your phone. You'll see it. You pinch it. It's owned by the U.S. U.S. forces and U.K. forces, and that's where they took the Malaysia people down. They took those people to that area. They shut all the radar off, and I'm assuming that's where they took the 9/11 people. They probably said, "We got emergency, we got terrorists, we got to land," and that's what they probably did. And they just killed them off.
What
That's
he
my assumption.
means when he refers to the Malaysia flight
24th flight
370.
370.
I remember that story.
Yeah.
So
2014.
the reason why that happened.
Oh, here's the reason why.
Go ahead.
There was 4 Chinese patent owners of a semiconductor, the only one in the world at the time. Anti-hack, they just couldn't hack it. So 20% for, that's 20% owned by Jacob Rothschild, who is gone in hell. Hope he's burning somewhere. But anyway, he owned 20%. And basically what he did is they kidnapped the plane and they killed all the people. They never found them. So when they don't find them, then the rest of the patents go to him because he's the sole survivor. So, and then he made like 20 billion, or no, more than that. He made a lot. Basically, they didn't let anyone invest in that semiconductor. It's all criminal. So that's where they took those people.
They took out competition. In other words, that they took out competition, and they covered their tracks by having it be on a plane.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Okay. Okay. So that was also my theory. I used to think that maybe they just made them disappear, like Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the second question is, if we believe what we just saw, that was definitely not a plane, and that our own government that this was an inside job, and everything that we've been talking about all night, why have we not already overthrown the government?
Well,
I can answer that.
Go ahead, Jim. Go ahead.
Okay.
How big has your mind been blown in the past year, Ruby?
A lot. My brain actually hurts right now. Like
Okay.
physically hurts.
Can you imagine what it would be like if all the truths were dumped at one time?
I get that. You've said that to me before.
Okay.
I totally
All
get
right.
that.
So now the other thing, so we got that. That's one point. The other point is these people have been doing this stuff for a very long time. To get the people to understand what's been going on, you got to gather all the evidence. You got to have an airtight case. You got to go and do all this digging on all these things that these people have done. And you got to present it to the public legally and with evidence.
Absolute. It has to be absolute.
Absolute evidence
behind the
that cannot be questioned. Like I said, if they told the truth about 9/11, would there be conspiracy theorists about it? No. So when disclosure, like Trump Card was saying, when disclosure happens, that stuff you're not going to be able to debunk it because you're going to see the truth about these things.
Yep.
Now, along the way, this is why I do what I do, the digital soldiers, the Anons. We've been given information to help, dig research on 9/11, research on JFK, research on all this stuff. Guys, you have the information. It's been said, you have more than you know. So when we do all this digging and we find these things, that show the corruption of the government, show that 9/11 was an inside job. We are prepping the public for the disclosure. So it's not so hard on them, and they will be able to accept this information. The reason why it's taking so long is because you're not just going to be able to dismantle an empire that's been going on for thousands, at least
years, if not more.
Yeah. You're not going to be able to
No.
do this overnight.
And they're not going to relinquish power. That's the thing. They're going to play their card to the last breath that they have.
But that's what I'm saying. Why doesn't the people take it upon themselves, like how it is designed for us to take over if there is tyranny or corruption or whatever? That's our right.
starting. It's finally starting to happen. But the military's been on this for quite some time. The part where I'm saying it's finally starting to happen is the civilian portion of this alliance.
Yep.
Because for the first time in history, you have a military/civilian alliance. The civilians, we didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
And once we got a little bit of guidance with true information, then we're like, oh crap, I need to tell people about this. And the more people that find out about all this stuff, that word spreads. And then if you have any power in local government or whatever, you run for office, you change your school boards, you change your city's councils. That's how you defeat these. And it takes a little time. But last point, but the quicker people wake up, the quicker this will be over.
Exactly. And the thing is that, when they have the EBS, it's not going to be Trump. It's going to be a lower level general that you never saw or heard before, and just lay it all out. And, people are going to lose it, especially with the news about the children. But it has to be done because we've been brainwashed for so long.
Okay,
and it's got to stop.
Okay, so follow-up question. For example, when Trump declassified the information confirming about the FBI involvement with the assassination of JFK, what happened? We got the truth. Was there any consequence to that? Did they get any repercussions for being involved in that, even though it happened 50 years ago? I didn't heard anybody get arrested.
I don't think that all of it came out. I think
there's more that's coming out on that.
Yeah, they have a looking glass. They can see into the future, if you believe it or not, and they can see. That's why they're always a lot of steps ahead of the cabal. The cabal can't believe that they lost this, and they're going to lose it, but they still have a little power. They got their minions doing their dirty work, but they're all being gathered up. And I want this to come out like yesterday. But hey, I'm patient. I'm 61 years old.
Too.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot, and I'm trying to wake my family up. And my brother keeps saying he's a fireman also, and he was there at 9/11. And but he also got 2 shots. So, and he's a good guy. We have the same birthday, 3 years apart, and he's a little rough around the edges, but he's a good guy. And the thing is, he told me the other night, he goes, "Why do they have her in the lead?" I said, "Ron, how many times are I going to tell you? It's all staged. Stop believing it." Call me up, ask me. Now he's back. He's retired. He did has 2 pensions, and he's back working again because that's how it is. You have to work.
Ruby, did you have any more questions, Ruby?
I think that's it for me for tonight, and I do have to wrap it up in about 5 or 10 minutes. So I'll give everybody final thoughts.
What about are you Jimmy, did you want to say all the other stuff?
Yeah, I want to say this part real quick, and because I was going to say it earlier, but I wanted to lay the groundwork. First off, I like the way this conversation has gone tonight because we didn't get hung up on the planes and the building falling. I mean, we created a groundwork here for people to dig on what really happened on 9/11 versus getting sucked into all the other things that they want us to be arguing about. Talking about the destruction of the deep state and the way to go about it and everything, and this will tie into 9/11. Abraham Lincoln went at the deep state head on. He got killed. McKinley went head on to the deep state. He got killed. JFK went head on to the deep state. He got killed. Reagan did the same thing. He got shot, and he was only allowed to do a few certain things. So this is one reason why Trump hasn't gone at them head on. This isn't a regular war. This is a different type of war, that one that the deep state can't fight. Now, how does this tie into pretty much everything we've been talking about and what we believe is going to be happening with disclosure and all this? Is the Nasara Jassara law. Okay, this is all I can't prove this, is just stuff I've seen in my research. Okay, so let me preface it with that. Nasara Jassara law was actually signed by President Clinton.
Yep.
In the Oval Office.
Yep.
At gunpoint by the military.
Yep.
Oh, wait,
Okay.
hold on. Repeat that sentence again.
Okay. The Nasara Jassara law, Nesara, and Jassara is Gesara. It's the National Economy Security and Recovery Act. It was a way, and we'll have to talk, maybe we'll do an episode about what that is. But this was a law that was going to be put in place to basically make living in this world a lot better for all of humanity.
Yep.
Okay. We'd have to go into that, just the points. But anyway, Clinton was forced to sign this at gunpoint. And one of the things that was supposed to happen is it was supposed to be announced to the American people. And it was supposed to be announced to the people of the world that this law was going to take place. Guess which day it was supposed to be announced on?
9/11.
September 11th of 2001.
Stop it. Stop.
That's what, yeah, he's right. And that's what they did. Yep.
So because the deep state would have lost complete control of the world back then, they did 9/11.
They did shock and awe. Yep. That's what they did. Desensitized everybody.
So remember when I told you that the military wanted to go in and take Obama out in his second term?
Yeah.
I've seen that.
It would have
Yeah.
caused a civil war. It would have caused a civil war.
It
That's
would
why
have,
they
yeah,
did
it would have
that.
caused a civil war. People wouldn't have known what happened. So when they asked Trump to run, Trump said, let's take a different tactic
Yeah.
and inform the public of what these people have done. But we got to do it in a way that's legal and by the rule of law.
The art of war. Exactly. And that's why he signed all those executive orders. And you're thinking, well, why didn't Biden take them, not sign them? But he did, because he's controlled. He's done. And this is just an actor. That's what they're doing. So,
And
yep.
just this week, Joe Biden re-signed the executive order 13848, which talks about election interference.
Yep.
Why would Joe Biden continue a Trump executive order if he wasn't being controlled?
Exactly.
That's a legit question for me, though. Well, but if he's being controlled, then why would he do that? I'm not understanding.
Because
he's not the real one.
He's not. That's where it goes back into play, that who really is the commander in chief in this country right now.
Well, exactly. It's CIC. It's Trump behind the scenes. Arthur Roberts is playing Joe Biden, and I think Kevin Spacey might be playing. I'm not sure, but
I don't know. I think Kevin Spacey's gone. But anyway,
I think so too. I think
Ruby's mind is like running a mile a minute right now. I can tell.
he's got to get some good sleep tonight.
Yeah, we gotta do a part 2, 3, 4, 5, because I'm like, what?
But this is the reason why. This is the reason why it's so important to talk about this stuff, because it's all connected. Every bit of it.
Yeah,
every bit of it.
Andrew Jackson was another one when he took all the money out of the central bank and put it in the national treasury. And he went through 3 national treasury, and they said, "Oh, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it." And the third one says, "Yeah, I'll do it." So he took all the money out, and he's the only president that we never had a national debt. Well, what do? They send over an assassin. He goes to shoot Andrew Jackson, and it doesn't go off. And Andrew takes the gun and beats the assassin over the head.
Yep.
And that's why Trump has a bust of Andrew Jackson in there. In the office.
Because he's doing the same thing Andrew Jackson did, taking down the Federal Reserve.
Same thing.
Wow. Okay, yeah, that's a lot. Okay, so I'm gonna move to Jesse, and I'll give everybody 3 minutes for some final thoughts, because
I gotta go. Hold on. I gotta.
Okay, bye guys. Okay.
Lisa's.
I'm talking to him to stay just a few more minutes.
Okay.
Okay,
Go
so
ahead.
we'll give final thoughts, because it's midnight where I'm at, and It's
Yep.
been a long week. I'm getting a headache. There's a lot of information. Okay, go ahead, Jesse. You're up first.
I don't think we could beat the deep state. There's somewhere in destiny or fate will have it, kind of like when Boris Yeltsin defeated Mikhail Gorbachev. It happened without a single bullet being fired. Nobody in the planet, in their wildest imagination, would think that the Soviet Union would fall in one night. Remember all those songs about Gorky Park, and the Scorpions used to do that songs in the 80s about just in the 90s, the fall of the Soviet Union. It just happened. Was it fate? Was it destiny? Was it the deep state? Was it the Rockefellers? I don't know. But I think that we cannot beat the deep state. I think we have to do it one county at a time, one city, one neighborhood, one dinner table. I remember coming across the border one time when we were little kids, me and my little brother Gilbert. My dad forgot our papers. And so my mom had to come into Yuma, and we stayed at the border. And he sat us up there, and there was some Border Patrol agents there. This is way back in the early 70s. And they were talking to my dad, and they called my dad sir. And I remember Gilbert was like a little baby, and I was a little bit older. And he told me, Mijo, look, listen. In the United States, he calls me sir. In the United States, he calls me sir. In Mexico, they don't. In Mexico, they don't. That's the difference. He goes, here I am, sir. And I thought we were learned that the greatest, you know who the greatest, highest ranking official is in your county? Who's the highest ranking official in your county, Ruby?
The mayor?
Nope.
No.
Sure.
You, the citizen. This is what it's all about.
Right.
In the Bible, as Christians, we know that the angels rejoice when a sinner repents. The same thing in America. When somebody awakens to the fact that we are king, we are free, we're the land of the free. We are the reason for the revolution. We are the reasons for the struggle, for the fight. Nathan Hale said, I regret that I have but one life to give for my country. It was so precious that we still recite that. 7 years for our father set forth on this continent, a great nation, great, conceived in liberty. So when we chat with our brothers and sisters and we get one person to vote like us against the deep state, we win. So every time somebody listens to your show or Jimmy's show or Lily's show, we win. So we're winning every day. Every day, people, black, white, Mexican, Hispanics, they're all waking up to the fact that the deep state has been screwing us, that they shot Reagan, that they shot Kennedy, that they shot Lincoln. No, our brothers did not die in vain. Ronald Reagan says, the martyrs of history were not fools. And our honored dead who laid their lives against Nazism and communism, they did not die in vain. So that's how I think we beat the deep state. One citizen at a time. We are king. In the United States, we are king. We're not serfs.
Yep.
And we're the news now. The digital soldiers are the news, like Jimmy said. And, 20 years ago, we watched the news and they think that's what the truth is. No, we are the news, every single one out there. And that's how we wake up and defeat them, because we don't give them our consent or power. That's what we have to do. Sovereign citizens, and we are free, and the reptiles need to go. Simple as that. I got to go to the kitty cat. Love you guys all. I got to go.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining.
We'll get them back next time.
Yes. Wow. Okay, Wild, you're up. 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to say, I was going to comment on what you said earlier, Ruby, about why haven't people rose up against the government or whatnot if all this stuff is being proven. It's sort of like we can see great inroads being made against the Watchtower. I mean, back when I was a young boy, I would have never dreamed it would have progressed to this point this quick. How many apostates they are now, so-called apostates. How many, look at what we forced the Watchtower to do. They've had to make policy changes, whether it be allowing beards now, allowing women to wear slacks to keep people in. We're making such inroads that people are leaving in droves. And sort of like what Rick Farron says, they're hemorrhaging, and I do believe it. They are now. They are, as an organization, hemorrhaging. They are in panic mode. Same way with the government. They're in panic mode right now. We pointed out about the pandemic, not a pandemic. It was a pandemic to where they could try to silence people. They could see who they can control. They know each one of us. Trust me. The government knows Jimmy. They know me. They knew who didn't take the shot, who spoke against it. And the reason I can say this with confidence, You say something around your smartphone or your smart TV, why do you think you get an ad all of a sudden? You're like, wow, I didn't even have it turned on. They
Yep.
know. And they monitor. And I'm not the same way I said about the Watchtower. I might not show my face right now, but I use my voice. I'm not at all afraid of the Watchtower, not afraid of the government. And I do like the point Jeff made earlier. I think it was about it's not the government, it's the ones in control, the elites or the ones behind the scenes. Because it's even like in the Watchtower, there's still some good people in the organization. They're no different than what we were when we believed it at one time. And there's some people still asleep about the government, but they are waking up. As Jimmy said, we are winning. And as Jesse said, one at a time, we're getting them to start questioning, start to say, hey, wait, this don't sound right. But always remember, divide and conquer. That's what they've done to us for so long. Now we're dividing them. We're getting people to see, check this out. Don't believe what I say, research it, look. Because one thing we should always remember, the truth never minds being questioned, but a lie hates to be challenged. Always live your life by that. If I'm telling you truth, knock yourself out. Look it up. I don't care. But now if I was lying, I'd be like, well, I'll be like the Watchtower. I've done the research for you. You don't need to check this out.
Right.
There's the difference. There is the difference. And
Good
that's what
point.
it goes back to what you said. What are we fighting for? If everything's staged, we're fighting for the truth, what we can prove, what we know is for the better of all mankind. And I'll leave it at that.
Wow, that was great. Okay, Lily, you're up next, and then we'll move on to Jimmy. Go ahead.
I did have a quick question. I just for the first time got to look at the comments. Does anybody know who Ellie and Becky is? Are they one of the people that were on last night talking?
I believe so. I believe so. Yep.
Okay, so like something in Angie, I think they said that was them. Whenever you do your religious programs, this will all tie in as far as all these things like Jimmy mentioned and Jeff mentioned, they are all connected. And what they're working very, very, very diligently on right now is separation of the people through religion. People are being divided on purpose through religious battles. And there's a lot more on that, but that's just the basis of where they're kind of hitting us to keep us in this confusion, to keep us in this like left, right, Palestinian, all the different areas of dissension. They're wanting that because they're needing to use that tool against us.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Thank you, Lily. Thank you for joining tonight. Go ahead, Jimmy. You're up next.
Were there any? We haven't really addressed the comment section too much. Did you want to do? Is there anything in there?
I got a couple of them that I've shared throughout the whole conversation, but everybody has been really listening to the conversation and in agreement with all of our theories / opinions. And so far, so good. Yeah, this was a great show so far.
I've enjoyed this conversation. What kind of last words would you want me to focus on?
Oh, whatever you would like to do.
As far as 9/11, since that's been the subject this evening, there's too much evidence showing that it was an inside job. There's too much evidence showing that the mainstream media lied about it. We can just look at the results of what happened after 9/11 with going into Iraq and disabling the Middle East. And of course, what all that led to. I think the one thing that I want to share with is this. I'll close with this tonight. I watched the movie Hacksaw Ridge. I don't know if any of you guys saw that movie. I highly recommend everybody to watch Hacksaw Ridge. After that movie was over, I was pissed. I even came outside and I cried a little bit. And the reason why I did is this. Because I know that this deep state, Illuminati, globalist, these bitches have been using us for a very long time. And the saddest part is that our men in uniform who thought that they were fighting for the America that they love so much was all fake. It was all for their wars.
Right.
They were used as pawns. Generations of humans, man, have been wiped from the face of the earth because of these people. And that's why our government, the ones that are in control, that's why they don't give a crap about our veterans. They would rather let our veterans be homeless and go ahead and give all this free stuff to the illegals, because these are the people that they're moving in and bringing in to replace the Americans, the ones that love this country. They want these, hang on, you guys. They want these people to be the ones that are voting for them. They want these people to be their soldiers, their foot soldiers. That's what they want, because they know they're losing control with the American population.
And on what Jimmy said, this ties back to last night. Okay, Kamala, you know, she's all proud of how she brought all these Haitian, thousands of Haitians into our country. I don't know if you've heard that, but that's one of her talking points. Okay. So, what they're doing is little by little, they're invading various, Republican communities, smaller communities that are pretty much all Republican. And an example, and I just saw this video today, so I'll find it and I'll forward it so you can see this section. In Ohio, they literally took thousands into an already small community and put all these Haitians in there. And part of the reason why is because it was already pre-planned that there are certain businesses, large businesses, manufacturers in that area. And they already have arrangements with those companies that they will hire the Haitians for less money than regular people, and they will get a government subsidy and a government kickback for doing it.
Yep.
That makes sense. Wow. Thank you for that, Lily.
You know, that is so evil, Lily, because as a businessman, you're so faithful to the United States laws, the taxation laws. And if you're like a Mexican American and you hire an illegal alien, you can go to jail, you can get fined. There's so many penalties. So you don't. You try to live within the rules of the corporations, the licensing, and the taxation. And then you see corporations hiring illegal aliens. When people have been faithful for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years in business, and these new businesses coming in are hiring illegal aliens. Wow, it's like playing basketball and the opponent's hoop, you're shooting the basketball and the hoop is moving.
And there's grooming that one of the person was saying about how for the last 2 years, the town was groomed to like accept this. There was this campaign in schools and amongst the leaders, the government leaders in that township to like, you know, hey, pro-Haitian, we love our Haitians, you know, and making it sound like what a great thing it would be if they all of a sudden came to our area and how we'll welcome them in because, you know, they've been so impoverished, and there was grooming that was taking place for what they were going to maneuver and do. And they have just executed that.
Wow. Well, thank you guys for joining me tonight, for spending time with me and talking about something very sensitive.
Could I have one more minute?
Yes, go ahead, Wild, and then I'll end the stream. Go ahead.
I just want to say one thing that I would like to address is I changed my handle a little bit. I don't know if you can notice it, but I work 911 into my handle just in honor, because here's what happens in every war. If you look up the term acceptable losses, what the military refers to acceptable losses, it's sad. There's always going to be innocent people. There always will be. Same way with Watchtower. There's going to be innocent people and families that get decimated, tore asunder. I mean, just tore completely out of frame. And that's the ones I feel the most sad for. They have no clue what's going on. They're just trying to live life like we are. They do not understand what's going on behind the scenes. And that's why it's
Yeah.
so important what all of us are doing, trying to open people's eyes. And, you know, there's going to be skeptics out there. I understand that. You can be skeptical of everything we say. And not even me, Jimmy and Jesse, I'm sure, and Leela, I'm sure we don't agree on everything, but we agree enough to where we see that there is something behind the scenes that's moving all this stuff. And that's the other thing I wanted to say. And one other quick thing, it's not a coincidence that 9/11 happened. And what's the number we always call when there's emergency in our city? 911. Yeah, this is all calculated because our minds will tie into this. As soon as we hear 9/11 or 911, we think emergency. We go into panic mode. It's all calculated from the very minute detail. So I'll leave it at that, and that's why I put 911 in there in honor of all those innocents that what they consider acceptable losses, but I never will.
Good point.
Thank you, Ruby. Thank you, Ruby, for having this platform and for making it so that, you know, people like Jeff and I who aren't on social media for various reasons. And it's like, we don't mind doing things like this. I don't mind doing things like this. And you make it possible because you are open-minded enough, even though it hurt some along the way a little. I think you get it a lot more after just 2 or 3 of these shows.
Yep. Wow. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Wild. Thank you, Jesse. Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, Jimmy.
Last thing I'll say is for folks watching and for everybody else, keep digging, keep asking questions. God, do not live in fear, because that's what they want. Do your best on a daily basis to try to give off good positive energy off your body, you know, because it's very important that we move to a high vibration and not continue to live in this low vibration that they've created for us to be to be kept slaves in. We're stronger than them. And they know it, and that's why they're fighting so hard. So we desperately need people to wake up and start asking questions and basically forget everything that you thought you knew.
Yep. You guys are taking me there. You're bringing me there. Like my head hurts. Like literally, it kind of hurts to.
It will.
Try to believe that and not get angry and be like, well, then let's take it. Let's take it by force if we have to. And I could get caught up into that, and I can end up just like what they want us to do, like exactly what you just said. I could see it, that if you don't keep yourself in check, you could easily become one of those people that just goes with your emotion and feels like you could take on the world because you're so angry and you know it's true. It's like right in front of your face, and they gaslight you with it. And and you guys already know I'm done with that. So it's very hard for like people like me who seek the truth, want the truth, they get the truth. We don't like it, obviously, because it's wrong and corrupt, but then we feel like we can't do nothing about it. But this is exactly what we have to start. We have to start here and work our way up. And you guys are helping me with that. So thank you so much.
Welcome.
Bye, everybody. And thank you to Trump Card. He just gave $5. He said, thank you, Ruby and panel. Woo! Trump always comes in with the clutch.
Hope everyone has a wonderful evening.
Good night.
All right. Good night.
Thank you.